This is Black Woman CEO. Welcome to the only podcast dedicated to giving you the raw and real experiences of successful Black women entrepreneurs. Yes, girl, we're talking about the behind the scenes strategies of what it takes to increase in your profit, power, and purpose. I am your host, Quanisha Green, and I invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's show. Hey there. This is Quanisha Green, founder of Black Woman CEO, and I'm so excited to come to you today with one of our interviews. Yay, our behind the scenes Black Woman CEO experts as they share many different aspects of their life so that you can have the raw and real understanding of what it takes to excel an entrepreneur. And then particularly, I love these stories of our entrepreneurs on the rise or CEOs on the rise who will be sharing their journeys around, what are they doing right now to get to that place where they're bringing in consistent revenue, hitting, like we said, those multiple 5 to 6 figures. So today we have Tiffany Blassingame. Hey, Tiffany.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So glad that you're here. So in a couple of seconds, I'll share who Tiffany be to me. But one thing, if you aren't familiar with Black Woman CEO, is that we love for our guests to actually introduce themselves. So they'll tell you who they be, because I feel like they do that much better than I do. And I don't want to just read their bio out loud. So Tiffany's going to introduce herself in a moment, but Tiffany and I have been connected online for a while. And one thing that I really love is that she's balancing being an educator, particularly a principal, and also building her business and supporting students, as well as supporting families with organization. And the work that she does, I think, is so powerful in supporting families. So I've gotten to know Tiffany really heavily over the past year and a half, and she's been active in our community. Like, I really have appreciated seeing her growth. And I feel like in a way, Tiffany, we've become friends, like CEO sisters along this journey. As you have helped me, she'll give you some tips on like, Quanisha, this is how you can clear your clutter a little bit. And if you want some more, come hire me. But even helping me rethink, like, what does it mean to be organized as a parent and a professional? So I've really enjoyed seeing her journey and even getting her tips and tricks along the way. So I won't talk some more. I'm going to hand it over. Well, not completely hand it over, but really allow you to get to know Tiffany and the awesome work that she does. And I think you'll enjoy her expertise and her story as we go along. So, hey, Tiffany. Hey again.
Hey, I'm Tiffany Blassingame, like Quanisha said, the owner of Simple Organization. And I started my journey with the business because of the work that I was actually trained to do in school. So I'm an educator. I've been a teacher, instructional specialist, and now a principal and school administrator with different grade levels from kindergarten through 12th grade. And so I started my business thinking about what that really looked like for supporting students outside of school. But more than that, I really see life as service, that life is all about service. And so I enjoy my job. That's my education background. And then I enjoy my work, which is what I consider my business. I heard this quote from Miles Monroe that says, "Your job is not your work. Your job is what they pay you to do, and your work is what you were born to do." And I feel like that my job and my work plays a part in who I am and that servanthood that I like to bring to wherever I am, whether I'm working on the job or if I'm working for myself.
Well, awesome. Thank you for jumping into that. And I'm going to ask you probably a little bit more about what you do, but let's start with actually who you be. So we got a lot about what you do and your expertise, but how do you describe yourself beyond what you do?
I would describe myself, and I've taken like all these, those personality strengths assessment, and they all come back like pretty much the same thing, even when I want to be something different, right? I am organized, disciplined, responsible, and, really I just have to own that, right? Like that is, those are my strengths, and those are the things that help me to get from day to day. I'm a very generous person, very compassionate and patient and nurturing, which I feel that comes out not just with my family and friends, but with my clients and with people that I interact with online. I'm really seeking to look at a different perspective. Like, people have different lives and they've had a different journey than you've had. And it's really important to kind of see things from a different perspective, whether you agree with it or if you don't agree with it. Like, that's their story, and respect their story. And so I like to be a model for that as well for others.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And you're a mom too, right?
I am. I am a divorced parent of a 14-year-old son. So that in itself says a lot, right?
Mhm.
The teenage years, and then thinking like, oh, it's just a few more years before he might be out of the house. And what would that look like for me next? That was a conversation that I just had with my therapist about,
Mhm.
you know, have you start to think about what life will be like in the next 4 or 5 years for you and where you want to be. And those are all important questions that we should all be asking, like thinking ahead.
Mm. Yeah. So, and I'll ask you a little bit about how you integrated all that with your business. And I know you shared what you do, but can you just maybe succinctly share with us what is your mission?
So, my mission is to help busy women and their families achieve wellness through organization and productivity. And what that means is like helping them provide structure in their homes or in their work life, within their business, or with kids at school so that they can focus on the things that are really meaningful and the things that matter. Like we always talk about being present. And people say, I
Hmm.
want to be present. I want to be present for my kids, but I also want to show up at work. And I also want to do this for my aging parent. And so, how do you do that? Looking at ways to structure your life so that you are present for the things that really matter.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for highlighting that. And you shared a lot about your area of expertise, but why is this so important for people, for women and the students that you're working with?
So, for me, and I'll get into my story, but I feel like it's organization and productivity that oftentimes hinders people from moving forward. Like, we'll say be consistent or just do it or just show up, but there's the how behind that. And I think people really need to know what that looks like for them and that it looks different for different people. And there's a lot of brain science behind executive function skills and what makes people productive and prioritize and organize, and how you can kind of use the strengths of whatever your executive function skill strengths are to make that work for you. And I
Hmm.
feel like giving the people information that they need to be able to create a system that works for them, that draws from their strengths, really helps them move forward. So to me, that's why it's so important. It gives the how.
So you're giving the how and freeing up clutter, whether it's in our mind
Mhm.
or in
Yeah.
the home. What is executive functioning? Like, how would you describe that in layman's terms?
Executive functioning are their skills in your brain, right? In the prefrontal cortex of your brain, the very front of your brain. And those are the skills that you use for organizing, prioritizing, your memory, your emotional regulation. And those skills grow most rapidly from like birth to age 2. So you think about when you're telling kids to put things this way, or it goes over here, or you have to share. Like, don't cry because you have to share. That's something that you have to do. We do that a lot when they're younger. And
Mhm.
then as they get older, the teachers begin to do it. Like it happens in the classrooms where you will have things organized. The binders go over here, the books over here, the reading center is over there. And then they become preteens and teenagers, and you think they should already know these things already, but of course they got a lot of things going on with their hormones and this, that, and the other. So you begin to kind of go through that organizing and helping them make a plan in their classes.
Mhm.
But those skills don't fully develop until a person is 25 years of age. And so
Mhm.
if we have not been continuing to guide and pour into those executive function skills the way we did when they were babies through age 2, then that's when we begin to have people, which would be us, who have to work extra hard to remember all those different things that they need to be organized and productive. And so I
Mhm.
really work with people on, let's take a look and assess your executive function strengths and your weaknesses, and then let's work on those things so that you can become more productive. So there's so much science behind that.
Good. Because I knew what it meant from, being a social worker. But then just to build on this one more time, so I know we're going to get into just like your journey in a second, but I know you work with busy moms. So like someone like me, I feel like I was extremely organized as a teen, a young 20. I even took like extra classes in college and was all organized. But as a mom, I'm like, oh my God, why is this pile of laundry there? I feel like I can focus so much on my business and then everything else is almost if like my executive functioning dies for the rest of my life. So Is it that we lose this executive function, particularly as moms, because of like, I don't know, the stress of family or what we're dealing with? So how does that start to influence us, particularly like you said, you work with busy moms as adults, because part of this, I would love people to hire you if they need it. But how does that look for us then? Do we lose it, Tiffany? Or is it just like we have a finite amount? Does it get exhausted? How does that look for the women that you support?
That's a great question. One are the expectations that we put on ourselves. So, because you've been so organized in the past, or you know what works in this area of your life, why won't it transfer into other areas of your life? And that is those expectations that we need to kind of set for ourselves. Like, if I could just get these two things done for the kids this week, I know I made it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, one is expectations. And then two is that, we've been taught that multitasking is so great, and really, like, it's not. Multitasking is a myth that, you can't be texting here and on this call and cooking dinner, right? Like, something is not going to really go as planned if you do that. Like, something has to give. And so being able to prioritize versus multitasking. And for so long, we've been taught that, multitasking is the way to get more things done. And really that's affecting our executive function skills.
Multitasking is a myth. It's a myth, everybody. Single tasking is where it is. Single task for success, because multitasking is a myth.
That's right.
You can use that if you like it. She's like, I'm gonna say that from now on, right? And we have another great episode actually from Tiffany where she's actually teaching a lot about what this looks like. So we'll definitely link that in the podcast notes. So if you want someone like Tiffany's good teaching on this, particularly as a busy mom, you can definitely have that. So I definitely want to transition into more about you and your journey. So how did you come to own your role as an expert and CEO?
I would say that it was what people were asking me about. They say to pay attention to, like, what are the questions that people are asking you? What are the things that people are coming to you for? And I realized as I got more into my career, although I was focusing on school leadership, I was getting a lot of questions just about, like, how do I help my child at home? It seems like when you are giving presentations that you're really great at sharing what we can do at home to get things organized so that the things that the school is suggesting that we are able to do. And so I began to do more of that studying about the brain science behind organization and productivity, and trying to learn more about that piece of it, because I felt like that's what was missing. Like, instead of like just do these things because, like, there's so much research out there now. And so that was one piece of it. And then just being an educator at heart, just being a nurturer at heart, someone who breaks down information. Like, that's what I have been taught to do. That's what comes easy for me. That was how I became more interested in professional organizing. And I didn't even know that being a professional organizer was like a career, right? And then when I found out that there's different niches inside of professional organizing, right? So there are people who organize just closets and pantries and bathrooms and garages. And then there are people who organize finances. And then there are people like me who help with productivity, and specifically with women and their families. So that was a big turn for me of realizing that, like, what came so naturally for me, maybe something that someone struggles with. And, I feel like it is part of my service to offer that to others.
So it really was, people get paid for this?
Yeah.
Around that. So that was a lot about your expertise. But what about actually taking on this role as a leader of a company and a business, like being the Black woman CEO? What did that look like for you, that journey?
Yeah, it was definitely a mindset change for me, especially coming from a more, I guess, traditional field, where, especially as Black women, we're taught, you go to school and you get that good job that's going to have those benefits, and it's going to have your teacher retirement, and like, you'll be just fine. Like, just focus on that. And I kept having this urge to showcase more of who I was. And I think that was a turning point for me, was, I can do things differently than what was put out before me from my own family, or from things that they felt I should be doing. And I just gave it a try.
Well, you talked about a little bit what made you start your business. So I don't want you to have to repeat that. So what were some of your early challenges that you faced though? Like, and how did you overcome them?
I started the business after I went through a separation and a divorce. My son was very young, an infant and a toddler during that time. And I began to realize these strengths that I had, and I was using these strengths of organizing and being productive so that I could balance work and caring for a young child and going through my own emotional struggles and challenges at that time. And so I started realizing I need a little bit of extra income. I might as well do it doing something that I love and enjoy, which was organizing and talking with people about organizing. And I began to just use my strengths to figure that out. And I didn't really have a model for that. There weren't a lot of professional organizers out there, but there were enough where I could begin to look and follow and begin to see, how does this look for me with a young child? And what do I want my life to look like in order to make this work for us?
So with that, how have you actually come to this point where you're integrating work and business, life, self-care, and family? What does that look like for you?
Scheduling my work around my life has been the easiest way for me to kind of take control of that. So when my son was younger, I did a lot in the evenings or when he went with his dads on the weekends. Like, I just scheduled my business around that. And I also cut off my full-time job when it was time to cut it off so that I could focus on growing my business. And I had a very clear separation between the two. And then creating a routine like every single day that would put God and me and my family first, and then everything else would come afterwards. And I just continued that from since he was 1 to now with him being 14, and really getting the business started because I have a lot more time with him being a little bit older where I can have conversations like this a little more often and not like so late at night. So I've been working the business for a while, but the past 4 or 5 years is when I really started seeking like extra support to grow the business.
And so can you share a little bit more about that too? So you said extra support. One thing I emphasize on the podcast is asking for help, right? So what did that extra support look like for you in helping you to grow your business?
So one, I think I talked about emotional challenges, and I guess that also goes with self-care for yourself and for making sure you're healthy for your family. But I believe in having both a therapist and a coach. And my therapist is there to help me kind of work through those emotional challenges. So I'm always showing up at my best for my son, for my family, and also for my business and the people that I serve. And then my coach, Quanisha,
She's like, you?
does not let me miss a beat, holds me accountable. I'll think I'm doing something really great and you would throw a question out there and I'm like, oh, wait, I need to think about that. So
I didn't shame her, everybody. It's like, Tiffany, we had a plan.
I need those reminders, but being able to have that relationship with you and those conversations with you really helps with me moving forward. And then just a support system around. I'm an introvert, social introvert, but I'm an introvert. So, there are times when I feel like I have to do everything on my own because I'm just so comfortable being alone. And I really have to work at connecting with others to say, hey, I really could use some help in this area, or could you at least look this over for me? I'm a part of a group of Black professional organizers in Atlanta. There aren't many of Black professional organizers either. That's a whole nother story. But working with them and meeting with them often to kind of talk about these are some of the challenges within this area that we want to be able to support each other on. So it's really getting out there and speaking up and showing up for others, and also being able and willing to accept the help that they give to you or can offer to you.
I really love that because part of my studies is actually that it's hard for us as Black women to ask for help. Some of that is what I call the strong Black woman syndrome. We're particularly taught if I want something done right, I got to do it myself. I got to handle this myself. also that mask that we put on of like, I'm all right, right? And although we've seen a movement of more women going to therapy, like Black Girls Therapy and all that. So I think more of us are seeing the value, right, and investing in that. So thank you in your vulnerability and sharing that you like therapy helps. Especially like when we're dealing so much. And I often say that entrepreneurship is one of the greatest professional development tools because you'll figure out all your ish that was really hiding behind. And you're like, oh, I didn't even know I had this problem. Or something that my uncle said at 10, like I'm it's like very present for me. So sometimes we don't even notice because like you've excelled in your career, you're highly educated, you've had leadership roles even before that. So you're like, I'm good. And then when you do your business, it's like, wait a minute, this is my baby, or are people going to judge me, or who am I to ask for money? So I know that was a lot of part of your journey. And of course, not going into your personal business, right? But I know like some of that mindset stuff was part of your journey. And that's common. That came up for me. And you'll hear that in our listeners and clients, that mental part and adjusting our mindset. And like you said, getting coaching even, right? So we have our therapy to help us maybe with the deeper part of where that's coming from or the emotions. But then business therapy also help you do that from the business standpoint and reframes. Like, yes, you can be highly paid for being a professional organizer. You can get paid 4 or 5 years, right? For the work that you do so that we don't undervalue it. So I thank you for emphasizing that point of asking for help. And it takes practice. And the other thing I just wanted to pull out from what you said is finding peer support too. On my journey, joining masterminds, having business besties has been so important. And it goes to another like 10xing it when you find people who are in the same field. And I love that you said other Black organizers. And I know I've seen like the page that you're on around that. So you can definitely put that in the notes. What's the Instagram handle again?
Ebony and Orderly.
Yes, so I was like, I love the name. I couldn't remember. Ebony and Orderly, right? So we'll make sure that's in the show notes. So you can just click and go. But it sounds like you don't see each other as competition. Like you all in the same area, right? Professional organizers. So just quickly, before we go on to like, asking you about your goal setting and how that works for you, how have you thought about being in a space where you're with other professionals who are in the same area? Because it sounds like to me, you look at it as more of a collaboration than competition. So can you just talk about that mindset a little bit? Because I know sometimes that's a struggle with some folks that are just like, oh, these people are doing the same thing that I'm doing. Like, how can I actually work with them or be, peers or friends with these folks?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you used the word collaboration because that is exactly what it is for us. We really have our own specialties. So while we have the similar training, we have our own different specialties and backgrounds. So what's helpful is when I'm dealing with a client who may also have some struggles with some mental health or emotional health challenges, that I can collaborate with another professional organizer that I trust who also has a background in counseling that would be able to give me some advice to work with the client or that I could refer that client to. And so different things like that, if you look at it from the lens of this is a support for me, and that means that I don't have to know everything and I don't have to own everything. I need to own who I am and what I bring to the table and allow them to do the same. And that's made a big difference within our relationship with Ebony and Orderly. And we've also started an organization, National Association for Black Professional Organizers, so that we can get others to have that same type of understanding about collaboration versus competition. Because many go to professional organizing meetings and you may be the only one sitting there, the only Black woman sitting there or a Black male. And you'll go month after month to these meetings and you still feel kind of invisible. So this organization will help us it's across the country, will help us to get to know each other better and to have a safe space to collaborate with others.
I love that emotional support that's so necessary. I mean, that's why we have Black Women CEO, right? Like we have unique experiences. So even at this core sort of being, African-American or Black, and then the professional organizing field, like you probably saw, or like in commensurating with your folks, you're like, hey, we have some unique experiences that they're not addressing. Let's go ahead and form that. So even like with business, you're filling a gap, right? You saw a gap in these associations or support spaces, and you're like, let me fill that. And that's a mindset, everyone, that works for you no matter what. So I just want to pull that out. And then the second thing that I loved is that you really were thinking, what is my zone of genius, right? Like, what do I own? And I want to pull this out for the listeners that you don't need to know everything to even still consider yourself an expert, right? And you can clearly communicate that and understand that. And that's also where colleagues come in of like, hey, if you need more counseling, I have someone to either connect you with or refer, or this is part of your package, right? Michelle does a counseling and then I, Tiffany, do this, right? So I think honoring like our expertise and our journey and being really clear about our boundaries so that one, we just know that as professionals, so we're not overstepping. And then we know that there's resources that you trust that can help your client come in. So it could be collaborating in the best interest of your client, but then also being clear on like, here's my effective service and what I deliver. And here's what this person is. So you can refer. And many times, if y'all don't know this, this is where you can actually create another stream of revenue, like referral fees, or maybe you're increasing your prices because you are going to have this expert coming in. So once again, when we look at holistically what you do, sometimes collaborating actually increases the value, and that also can help you bring in more revenue for your business. So I just want to pull that out for folks, make money to refer your friend. So thank you for elaborating on that and sharing it. So hopefully that helps someone to also shift their mindset around the whole competition, collaboration, and how it can actually be an asset to you as a professional and an asset even to the people that you're looking to serve in your business in that way. So with that, how do you actually set goals, execute, and stay focused? You're balancing, work along with building your business. I call it like parallelpreneurship. So how do you actually go about being effective and getting things done?
Well, I use my own kind of rinse and repeat cycle that I teach my clients called the 3 Ps of productivity, which is to pause, plan, and then prioritize. And then I break that down yearly, monthly, weekly, and daily. So it's something that I just practice as a way of my lifestyle, I would say. But taking a moment to pause always with daily, whether that's to pause each week on Sundays, like we stop and put everything away and begin to plan for our week every Sunday, whether that's getting our routine together, whether that is using my planner. And you might have a message in your Facebook Messenger with something that you said you were going to do. Plus, you got your Google Calendar, you got stuff everywhere. And then you might have the kids' list of things that they need to do, and like getting all that on the schedule so that then you can put the most important things there that you need for your business and then things that you need for your home. And all of that is part of what I do each week. So I stop and pause and like intentionally have time to plan and set goals and look at my goals for my business and look at my goals for my child. I'm helping him to set goals so that he can begin to develop these same habits. And so taking the time to pause and just leave white space in your calendar and in your time so that you actually have time to pause and then plan it out and prioritize. And it's just a rinse and repeat cycle.
I love that it's a structure in your life. And often as busy people in general, not just moms, we're like, who got time to pause? But it's like, I love you said prioritizing it. You have to prioritize this because then it'll pay off for the rest of the week.
Right.
So taking that half an hour. And then I love that you're modeling this behavior for your child, because early on you talked about how this executive functioning needs to be developed. So even with you balancing family and work, you're still even actually helping to enhance or build these skills with your own child so he can be more even effective. And who knows, he may become an entrepreneur, seeing mom do all this effectively. So it sounds like everyone needs a pause. And I call it, particularly with business, a CEO date, right? Where we're actually carving out that time to do those high level analysis. So you're doing like a CEO date plus a mom date at the same time, parent date, to make sure you're doing this analysis, see what needs to be done and how you can move forward with your goals. So thank you for sharing that. So let's move into our closing inspiration and advice for listeners. So Tiffany, what is one piece of wisdom you would share with the woman who is frustrated building her business and desires to become that rock star Black woman CEO? Or another angle to look at this question from is, what do you wish someone told you when you started this journey?
Well, it's something we've kind of hit on, but you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And that's in every area of your life, whether that's working the business or being a mom or being a wife, whatever it is. You can do anything, but you just can't do everything. You've got to seek help. You've got to look for different ways to make your business work, and the people who are going to support your business and things that you need. You look at big CEOs, I'll say it that way, they aren't balancing their own books and doing all this stuff. Like, they have people that work in that area that know those areas to do that for them. And your work and your business is just as valuable.
I love that. Your work and your business is just as valuable for you to get support and help. Yes, don't be the chief everything officer, right? Be the chief excellence officer, as I like to say. So thank you for sharing that. You're like, look, can't do it all, right? It's a myth that we have as women, like, oh, I'm gonna have it all. And it's like, but you don't have to do it all to have it all,
Yeah.
right? Let's start to distinguish that. So what is your personal mantra, a motto or a saying or a quote that you live by?
My favorite mantra that I use pretty often is broken crayon, still color.
Mm.
And whenever I have had some type of disappointment, whether it's a large disappointment, like going through divorce, or whether it's I just didn't get to the 5 things on my list, or I really expected something to go one way in my business and it just didn't pan out that way. Broken crayon, still color. Like, you can still be used. There was something that was important, and someone got something out of whatever it is that you offered, and it may not look that way at this time, but over time that's going to show up. So I say that to myself almost daily.
Broken crayons, still color. I love that. I love that. It reminds me of taking imperfect action, right? A progress over perfection. So it reminds me of those. That triggered in my mind when you said that. Lastly, what's the number one success strategy? You named so many, so it could be something you name, but what's the number one success strategy or tip you would give to the women who are in the early phases of building a business?
I would say be consistent. That's the success strategy.
Mhm.
And more so being consistent with your relationship with others. And it wasn't until I really started working with a coach, and it wasn't until I started collaborating with others, that I was able to show up more and have the confidence to show up more in my business. So, not just being consistent with what you put out there, but also being consistent with who you're working with and who you're allowing to support you. Don't fall off and then try to come back and have this relationship with people who were depending on you before, and then you didn't show up for them. So,
Mm. I love that. So being consistent in your business, being consistent in the relationships that you develop. And I always add that we are in relationship with our audience. So that being consistent builds that pivotal factor that people need to make a buying decision, which is that like, know, and trust factor. So I love that you mentioned trust. So it's not just trust with, your other colleagues and peers and they can depend on you. It's also that consistency builds trust in you and confidence in you as a service provider, that people are like, Tiffany's going to be there, right? She's consistently showing up. And when I'm ready to invest in the work that she does, she's going to be there. And that's how they can trust us and pay us, because they're like, she's not going to ghost on me after I give her some money. So I love that you emphasize that, right? That consistency is like really the success strategy. And I just wanted to kind of speak to the psychology right behind that and why it works in business. So that's really the end of our interview. Thank you, Tiffany, for hanging out with us. So how can people stay connected with you? Like I said, we're going to put in the notes the link to the formal presentation that you did that we shared, Black Women CEO, and the links to, the Instagram page. But can you just tell us, if people wanted to get a resource from you or stay connected, how would they do that?
definitely. So, you can follow me Facebook and Instagram at TW Blass. And my website is simpleorganization.org. And on the website, you can schedule time for Calm the Chaos strategy session, where we can talk about making organization and productivity work for you or your family.
Awesome. Awesome. So go get that calm the chaos. Go get that strategy session. So Tiffany can support you. And one thing I'll add is that, Tiffany talked a lot about getting formal support from Black Women CEO. So I'll also make sure that those are in the show notes. So if you're ready to do what Tiffany did and to get coaching, right, to support you on this journey, helping you to build your business and think more strategically and powerfully, I'll also put our link there where you can schedule a business breakthrough session with me or someone from our team, so that you can explore how Black Women CEO can support you in your entrepreneurial journey. But definitely go ahead and connect with Tiffany, because, as busy moms, we're just like, okay, I need some help. You don't have to do it alone, right? Go struggle. I believe it's a no obligation call, right? It's just exploring if and how she can support you or even your child, right? And helping you to get to where you want to go and having that more calm and bliss and peaceful life, right? And if you're dealing with clutter and busyness, this is the answer to that. So definitely go connect with Tiffany. And all these links will be in the show notes, right? So no pressure to be like, well, how do you spell blast? It's going to be down in the notes. Okay, so you got that. So Tiffany, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so happy that we got to do this interview. And I want to leave everyone with our motto here at Black Woman CEO that power is the ability to create your reality. So go forth and be powerful, sister. And we'll talk to you soon. Oh girl, the episode stopped, but the party is not over. I want you to go ahead and subscribe, like, and rate this show. Leave us a comment sharing your takeaways. And when you're done with that, come on over to blackwomanceo.com, join our movement. And when you do that, you'll get the special invitation to join us in our community. Well, I will love to put a face to that name, girl. So this is Quanisha signing off, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Peace and love.